Hey, everybody, welcome to Raw Parenting Unfiltered. I'm BJ Muir, your heart based parenting coach, here live with you, or maybe I'm on the replay, depending on when you watch this live stream. We're here tonight. We're going to be talking about your parenting questions. If you've got a parenting question, you can throw it in the comments. We'll try to get to it this evening. And of course, if you're watching on the replay, there is a link to a little Google form that you can just drop your question in right there, and you'll probably see it come up on a future live stream event here, which happens every Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, I've got a list of questions that came in throughout the week or that have come up in the last couple of weeks for me with working with families. And tonight, like we did last week, I'm going to give you a brand new, super simple way you can teach your kids about Jesus during Christmas time. I'm not a big decorate the place for Christmas yet person, but I know that if I don't start giving you these ideas now, it'll be harder for them to happen because you're going to get so busy. So I want to give them to you now. That way you have them in place for when Christmas time actually hits. Unless, of course, you're someone who says Christmas time is hit. And in that case, go ahead and use these things right now and use them with your kids. But I find that whenever we do Advent, I'm really good for like the first 10, 15 days. And then after that, I get so busy that I unfortunately, I don't always do the really nice devotionals and things like that. But if I have simple things on hand that I can do, man, it makes it so much easier to really keep the focus on Jesus. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but we had a great week. I know it's only Wednesday, but it feels totally different. We had off for Veterans Day. If you are someone who has served our country in our military, thank you for your service. And thank you for everything you've done and sacrificed to make this place we call home possible. I know, my school had off. Lots of schools have off for Veterans Day. And how do you celebrate? Do you put a flag out front? We put a flag out front. We had a very windy day on Veterans Day. So our flag was really ripping there in the wind, not literally ripping, but just ripple. I don't know the word, rippling. If you know the word, put it in the comments down below. That'd be great. But what do you do? Do you hang a flag? Do you have loved ones you go visit? We have some loved ones we always make sure to thank on Veterans Day as well. So great day, great week. Can you believe it's already Wednesday night? We're going to be heading into Thursday real soon. So good to see you here. If you're here with me live, go ahead and put any question you have right there in the chat box. We'll try to get to it tonight. In the meantime, we've got some questions already here ready to go for you. So whether you're here on YouTube, TikTok, or Facebook, it's good to have you here. Let's take a look here. The first question up here, consequences. Consequences don't seem to be working anymore. My 8-year-old just shrugs them off or gets angry. What do I do when the consequence isn't motivating any change? Yep. If that's you, click a thumbs up here or tap the screen on TikTok for the hearts. Let us know, yep, this is you too. If it feels like the consequences that you're using with your child don't seem to work anymore, like they just shrug them off and they don't seem to be affecting their hearts or making any change, it's often not the consequences that are an issue, but other circumstances around consequences that need to change. Too often, when this happens, many parents think, I need to up the ante. I need to increase consequences because what I'm doing isn't shocking them into doing the right thing anymore. So I clearly, this is ineffective. I need to up it. But that's not really what works with kids or any of us. That's not going to work in the long run if we're really truly trying to capture our kids' hearts and see change throughout them, not just behavior change. Can upping the ante and increasing the level of consequences change behavior? Absolutely. But oftentimes it comes at the cost of the heart because a child's heart grows bitter. So what's really going on? Why are consequences not working with my child? And what do I do differently to start making them work? Well, one of the reasons that they may not be working is that they're not aligned with the actual issues at hand. You might be actually implementing punishments rather than consequences. There's a difference between those two things. Punishments are designed just to bring justice and judgment, and you need to pay the penalty. That's not really what we see, though, in the Bible. We see consequences happen at times in the Bible, but those consequences are not designed to bring justice and judgment and penalty. It's more designed to teach, designed to bring transformation. And so we need to look at that and say, okay, how do I use consequences to teach my child, to disciple my child, not just to make them just change on the outside, but not have any heart change on the inside? So that's the first thing I want you to look at is ask yourself, why am I using these quote unquote consequences? Am I really trying to teach, or am I just punishing my kid here? When we're punishing our kid, the second thing happens. They lose all hope. Consequences that are going to work maintain hope. For example, I might look at my child who has been violating screen time privileges. And of course, there needs to be some consequences here to help my child learn the right way. One of those consequences is probably going to be me taking away that device for a while. If I look at my kid and say, "Up, that device is mine. I'm putting it in my Friday box. You get it back on Friday." No, no, we're not talking about it. What is the motivation for change at that point? There really is none. If I take that device away and say, I'm watching how you're handling this device, it's not appropriate. You've broken our screen time expectations. I'm going to hold on to this until I start seeing some changes here where you're being more responsible. Well, how long does that take, Dad? Can I have it back tomorrow? Can I have it back? When do I get it back? Are you taking it for the whole week? I don't know how long I'm taking it for. That depends on how you change. And if I start seeing the responsibility develop in your heart, suddenly I have motivation and hope established for my child. Now, I can't just say, oh, it depends on how fast you change. I need to look at this and say, okay, I remove this privilege for a while, but I need to also teach some skills. What is my child doing here? My child might be sneaking on. They might have gotten the passwords, but whatever they're doing, they're not demonstrating a heart quality. Maybe it's self-control. Who knows what it might be exactly in any situation, but you want to identify what that is and teach the necessary missing skills that they need in order to develop that much more. And when they say, how can I show that I'm being responsible or that I have self-control if I don't have the device? And you say, well, I'm going to look for it in other areas of your life. So for example, when it's dessert night and I tell you to grab 2 cookies and you grab 4, that tells me you haven't developed self-control. Or if I see you continually sneaking chips and things like that when it's not time for snacks, that tells me you haven't developed that self-control. So I'm not going to bring the device back. Things like that are examples for our children of how they can demonstrate that self-control or whatever the heart quality that you're trying to develop in them. So that way the device can come back eventually. Again, I don't want to hold on to this device for very long. I don't want this here for a week. We're going to lose motivation. It's going to be harder to maintain hope. But I don't want to just say, oh, this is going in my Friday box, because then there's no reason to change. It's Wednesday. I got no reason to change for Thursday if I'm not getting it back till Friday anyway. So maintain hope by leaving the deadline there open-ended and conditioning it on the development of certain character qualities or heart qualities. Then you have to actively work with your child to teach them those heart qualities. And when you bring it back, you say things like, let's give this a test. Let's see how it goes today. That way it's not a automatic, oh, you did something one time, here you go. No, we want to see some consistency. Once we do, we say, here you go. Give that a try and we'll see how it goes. Hey there, folks on TikTok. Joyce, thanks for joining us. KJ, thanks for joining us too. Go ahead and drop a question in the comments. If you got a question there in the chat there, love to hear from you. We're answering parenting questions tonight. And if this is being helpful there, TikTok, just go ahead and tap, 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 tap. Let us know. And that'll also help TikTok know they should share this with other people. All right. I'm not done with my answer here, so I'm going to actually get back to answer, but I wanted to say hi to some of our friends here. All right, so Consequences. Why aren't they working? Why are kids shrugging them off? We've already talked about how they are oftentimes being implemented the wrong way because we're doing punishments, not consequences. We're killing hope in the process. But another reason why, excuse me, another reason why your child is shrugging off consequences and they're not having an impact is that something needs to change in the relationship. The relationship you have with your child is likely not as strong as it really needs to be. And so things don't matter as much because they're not investing emotionally the relationship you have. The way to change that is to start looking for positive ways to put deposits into the relationship. Two ways I like to do that. One is to get into your child's world. That means when they're playing on the ground with Legos or blocks or whatever, it's get on the ground with them and play for even just 5 or 10 minutes. And when you're done, say things like, wow, this was really fun. I'm so glad I got to build these with you. When your child's playing on their video games and things like that, try to play with them or at least sit next to them and watch them play for a few minutes. When they're done, say, wow, you're really good at this game, aren't you? I'm so glad I got to be here for this. Look for ways to take interest in the things that interest them. You might not be naturally a sports person, but your kid loves sports. So guess who's going to go outside and shoot some hoops with their kids this week? You are, because you're going to take an interest in the things your kids are interested in. And when you're done playing that game, make sure to say something like, thanks so much. I had so much fun. We had so much fun together. That's a way of you using your language to sort of put a pin right in that moment and mark it as a positive moment in the relationship. That's one way. The second way is to invite your child into your world. So you've gotten into their world, invite them into your world. This might look like inviting them to help you make dinner and letting them help choose the menu. It might look like inviting them to come along for a ride as you run an errand or two, because kids love to do that. So invite them along as well. It might involve them coming alongside as you're, you know, doing something in the garage and fixing something or whatever it might be in your life that you're doing. A lot of times these things you might be hearing are like chores we do. Yeah, no, we got a lot of chores that we do, but inviting kids in can really make it a lot more fun. But sometimes we might invite a kid into a hobby we have, something we just enjoy doing, and letting them enjoy it with us for a little while. Again, these don't have to be day long events and things like that. These are small moments in our relationships where we can then end that time like, wow, thanks for coming for this ride for me. It was much more enjoyable having you here with me. Or, wow, this job got done a lot faster because you were helping. Thank you. Find genuine ways, give positive feedback by you getting into their world, them getting into your world, and suddenly the relationship is changing. Now that the relationship is changing, suddenly those consequences start to mean a little something more. And the more we're working on using consequences, not using punishment, and we're investing in relationship, things start really changing. But the last reason why consequences might not be working is that we're just overusing them. So many times I see parents, when children are doing the wrong thing, they just start with consequences right away. Consequences should not be our first response. They should be a teaching tool we use later on in the process, but not our first response. I don't know any child who's in the middle of disobeying or doing something wrong or whatever it might be, who responds positively when mom or dad look at them and say something. That's it. You keep doing that type of thing. I'm taking away this. You can't do that anymore. You're going to bed early. I don't see any kids looking at their parents going things like, "Oh wait, I have to go to bed 15 minutes early. Oh gosh, I am so sorry, mom. I'm so sorry, dad. Clearly I'm wrong. Please forgive me." No, they don't do that. What do? They get dejected and they feel hopeless, or they get upset and angry because they feel backed in a corner and they come out swinging and arguing more. Like, it heightens things. It never takes it down. So why do we do it? It's not going to work. When we're using consequences that way, we're trying to use consequences to control rather than using relationship, firmness, vision casting, teaching, coaching, transferring responsibility, prayer, using all those heart tools to help develop the heart of our child. In that moment, when there's a problem, when you're having an argument with a kid, when things are going south in the relationship, when kids are getting off track, you have a decision to make to either control the situation or connect with the heart. A lot of people hear me say that and they say, oh, that's weak. Connect with the heart. Ooh, no, that's what Jesus does. Okay. And I don't see him as weak ever. You can either control or connect. In the moment, you want to control. You raise your voice, you try to argue with them, you outmaneuver them with logic, whatever it is, and you control the situation, but you didn't connect with the heart. And this is just going to happen again. When you start with connection, when you start with trying to, through relationship, using firmness, using vision casting, using all these other tools I'm talking about, you start seeing heart transformation, change that actually lasts. Do we need to use consequences when we're connecting with the heart? Yeah, sometimes we do. That's okay. Do we sometimes have to take away some privileges and things like that? Yeah, we do. Do we have to have uncomfortable conversations? Yeah, sometimes we do. But we can still be correcting and connecting at the same time. It's all in how we do it. You start making some of those shifts to the way you use consequences, and suddenly your child isn't shrugging them off anymore. This helped you a lot. Make sure to hit the thumbs up, tap on the hearts, or whatever works for wherever you're following me at. All right. Thanks so much for that question. Great to see you here. I'm seeing a bunch of people over here on TikTok. Great to have you over here. I'm trying to see that name. ELDAAA. I don't even know how to say that if you can. So if you want, put a pronunciation key in there or say hi to us here. If you're over on TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook and you're watching live, go ahead and ask us your questions. We are here to, I am here to answer your questions live right now. However, if you're watching this on the replay, you of course can go to the link I have right there where you are at, click on it, and put your question right in that little Google form that asks one question, which is, what's your question? And I will look to get to it at a future live stream. I am getting terribly distracted tonight because I'm looking over here and I am in our little home office here. And the door is closed and there's a cat in the room right now. We have a couple cats here. One of them's in the room right now. Noelle is her name. And she has managed to climb herself. I wish this camera could turn and point. She has climbed herself into a tote bag. She's just rustling around in there. Who knows what she's going to do? All right. If you've got a pet, cat, dog, whatever you've got, if you got a fish or a pet rock, go ahead, put it in the comments. I'd love to see what pets we got out there too. All right. So let's take a look at our next question here. My 7-year-old gets so defensive during conflicts. The second I bring up a problem, he shuts down or argues back. How can I help him stay calm enough to work things out? Hold on one second. I just want to write a quick note. Yes. And question 1, it is hard. All right. My 7-year-old gets so defensive during conflicts. The second I bring a problem up, he shuts down or argues back. How can I help him stay calm enough to work things out? How many of us here have kids with big emotions? How many of us here are struggling with kids who get defensive when all we're doing is trying to help? If that's you, tappy, 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 or go ahead and hit the thumbs up. Let me know this is you. Write something in the comments or in the chat. We're live. Write something in the chat. So I know that's you too. But let's talk about, what do we do? So I got a 7-year-old who gets defensive during conflict. You bring stuff up, he shuts down and argues back. If your child is shutting down let me try again. If your child is shutting down or getting defensive when you're trying to help them navigate big emotions and solve problems, it often means they don't feel safe right now in that relationship. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing you. We're all parents. This is all difficult. But right now, in that moment, the reason they're getting defensive is their heart isn't feeling safe. So how do we help them feel safe? Everybody has 3 core needs: connection, felt safety, and regulation. These are challenges for lots of people who've gone through some difficulties in life. kids who come from what we call hard places, kids who face all kinds of challenges. This can be even more difficult, but all kids and all adults need these three things. Here's the good news: we don't have to work on felt safety, regulation, and connection in isolation. We can work on them together by keeping our focus on connection. When I feel connected to somebody, I feel safe with them. And when I feel safe with them, I can regulate myself a lot better, or I'll respond to the ways you're trying to help me regulate a lot better. How can I do this? In the moment when our child's getting defensive, we need to back up in the process. We're so busy trying to solve the problem, get the kid to calm down, resolve the conflict, but we haven't connected. And so I want to suggest you back up in the way you're approaching your child in that moment and connect with them. What does connection look like? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because if you really want to know what connection looks like, you would grab my calm parenting framework cards available on the TikTok shop. And you could see the first one in calm stands for connect. How do you connect? I'll just read some of this to you right now. This is how you connect. Get low, soften your voice, use gentle touch or proximity if that's welcomed, mirror their emotion, match their tone with calm empathy, keep your body language open and calm. What you can say things like, you're really feeling some big emotions right now, aren't you? Or wow, that's a big feeling you're having right now, isn't it? Or it's okay. Are you feeling hmm? Or Are you feeling angry or frustrated? Those types of phrases, when you are making eye contact, putting your hands on your child's shoulders and asking them simple questions like that, or just trying to empathize in that moment, you're connecting with them. And guess what happens when you feel connected? The defense walls go down in your child's heart. You're not saying what they're doing is right. You're connecting. You're acknowledging this moment is hard for them. And that's a good thing. How many times do you and I find ourselves in places where we're frustrated, where we're upset, where we're worried, where we're anxious, where we're some sort of a big emotion, and we know we're not right necessarily, but man, it would just help if somebody understood that. If somebody put their arms around us and said, man, this looks like it's tough for you right now. How many of us need that? Yeah, let's offer that to our kids then through connecting. Okay. Once we've connected, we can start moving towards attuning. That's what the A stands for in calm. When we want to help our child attune, that's the fancy way of saying we want to use some strategies to help them calm down. And I find when I'm working with kids that that connect and attune go together, that I tend to juggle between these two together. I might say something like, let me see your eyes. Let me see your eyes. Give me your hands. Okay. Take a deep breath with me real quick. Oh, wow. This is a really tough moment for you, isn't it? Okay. See how I'm juggling those two? I'm connecting, I'm breathing, I'm saying an empathetic statement. Now I'm about to move into something else. We held hands. Like, we're jumping between connecting and attuning. And in doing that, I am helping my child develop the self regulation they need. Younger children, they don't have self regulation fully developed. Even some older children that we have don't have this fully developed either. They need some help, and that's okay. Again, how many of us need a friend who helps us out in those moments? So, yes, connect and attune with your kid. When you're doing that, you're taking down that defensive wall your kid's building up. Another reason kids build up defensive walls is that what you're saying is a danger. You're calling them to change before you ever connected with them. You're calling them to fix something that's gone wrong before you ever connected with them. And in the process, your words and what you're calling them to is seen as a threat in some way. Maybe it's a threat because they know they did wrong and they're feeling some shame. And your words, although your words are not trying to bring shame, you're just trying to help your kid move forward and do the right thing, but they are hearing your words as casting shame on them, as judging them, as attacking them. When we connect and help our child attune, we start taking down that wall. So those very same words can still come into our child's life and have the impact that we desire for them. I know I've got some parents out there who hear me talk about calm, and they hear the C and the A and they feel like, BJ, no one did this for me. Are you kidding me? This feels like such a waste of time. Like, hey, no one did it for you. I'm sorry. You know, no one did it for a lot of us. But we know a lot more now than maybe we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago about how God's built the body, how God's built the mind, and how self-regulation works. We've learned a ton about those things. Was anybody talking about ACE scores when you and I were kids? No. But did people have some ACE numbers? Yeah, we did. We all had trauma. And no, we didn't just deal with it. We're a mess. We got our own stuff. Okay, let's just call it like it is. So go with me on this ride. I've done this with lots of children, my own, other children whose parents I've worked with directly, and guess what? It really helps. Those defensive walls come down, and we can move towards L and M, which stand for lean and map. Lean and map. When we're leaning and we're mapping, we're leaning on God's truths and we're mapping a practical plan forward. We're sitting there and we're saying that thing we were trying to say before, like, hey, we can't talk to siblings like that because they're part of God's creation, and we need to show love for our sisters and our brothers because they're part of, God made them and He made them special, and we treat God's creation as special. We were trying to say that before, but before that sounded like an attack. Now that we've connected, now that we've attuned, they can hear that. But if we stop there, that's just leaning on God's truth. And that's great, but it can sound like judgment if we don't help them map a plan forward. When we map a plan forward, we are helping them take something about God's truths in the world and come up with a practical way to apply that. So we say things like, okay, so now that we've recognized what you're doing is wrong here, that you don't talk to your sister this way, now that you've acknowledged that, maybe even ask them, hey, what'd you do that was wrong? Yeah. Why was that wrong? Yeah. Okay. What are you going to do differently next time? And maybe what do you even have to do now to kind of fix this up? We make a practical plan. Okay, the next time your sister is annoying you, the next time you think your sister cheated in the game or your brother took your seat or whatever it might be, what are you going to do differently next time? Because what you did wasn't the right thing. So what can you do so that this works out better next time? And come up with a plan together. Now you've empowered your child with a plan forward. And maybe they needed to go apologize or something like that. We can work on that too. But that's how this calm framework works. And the reason it works with your child is that it starts with connection. So if your child is throwing up defensive walls, if they are shutting down when you're trying to talk, the first thing you want to do is connect. You start doing that, you'll find things go a lot differently for you, for your child, and for your family. All right. Thanks so much for the question. Yvonne, nice to see you here. If you got a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. We are taking parenting questions. Right now, though, I'm going to show you. I was holding up these parenting cards. Like I said, these are available in the TikTok shop if you want to grab your own set. There are, there's 13 cards, but the one card is double-sided. So I always say 14 cards. So yeah, you've got the cover here. And the back there just tells you how to use these things. These are really a parenting tool to help you because I talk about the CALM framework. It's a framework I created based on what we see Jesus do with us, how Scripture lays out how we go through the correction process with Jesus. It's also based on what we see in current child development research, how we understand attachment theory, trauma-informed practices, TBRI, all of those things. Yeah, it's all right in here. What we know about all the brain research too. And so the first 4 cards, and they're all numbered, so if you ever drop them on the ground, you can just pick them up. They're also color coordinated too to help make it easy. But the first 4 are the whole CALM, CALM. And so that way you can kind of hang these up next to your bed or put them on the refrigerator or somewhere that you can just review them. I've had people say, oh, I'm going to put them in my Bible. Okay, great. Put them in your Bible. And after you're done reading your Bible for the day, You can go ahead and read through these and just remind yourself, because this is the parent we want to be. It's often not the parent we are in the moment. But the more we get in touch with these tools, the more we start using them, the more they become how we parent. So those are the first set of cards. Then we switch over to these white cards here. And these are like the troubleshooting guide. What do you do when you're the one who's overwhelmed? Different scriptures for specifically anger, sadness, and when kids feel anxious. Those are what I call the big three emotions. Everybody needs a plan for how to handle those three. And they're ones that lots of kids struggle with. So there you go, some scriptures to help you out there. How do you move towards independence? How do you help your child move from you helping them all the time to them also starting to learn how to self-regulate? That's some tips right there. And even just a troubleshooting guide, just the common problems that happen when we're trying to help our child calm. So that's what that's there for. And then finally, the last couple of cards here are all different strategies. And these I could see you using with your kids. These are different strategies you could use with your kids. You could even take one card out and be like, you know what, my kid is much more of a kinesthetic type of kid. So I might hold this out and say, I want you to pick one strategy that you want to do right now with me. Let's go. Pick one out together. Probably wouldn't say let's go, but you know what I'm talking about. So those are the calm cards, the calm framework parenting cards. They're, like I said, a set of 14 cards. They're available in the TikTok shop. You can go ahead and grab your own set. We'll get them right out to you. And you can start using connection and different attuning strategies as you work with your kid when they're struggling with big emotions, when they've done something wrong and family life just gets really heated and big. These are great to help you during those times and help you learn on the go. Hey there, Newt. Is that Newt? Newt72. Welcome here. Go ahead and tap that heart if you're finding this helpful. And if you got a question, put it in the chat. I've got my big water bottle tonight. Someone took one of my kids' chores today was cleaning up this room, and they grabbed my my cup that I had in here for this evening. So that's not here right now. All right, let me take a look. So we talked about two of the questions, went through the com cards. So let's talk about Christmas. I know it's November. I'm not always a Christmas person in November. I'm one of those wait till Santa Claus comes down the parade route before I listen to Christmas music and hang up any Christmas stuff. And if that's not you, that's cool. I respect you. That's great. Put in the chat, what are you? Are you Christmas now or are you Christmas after Thanksgiving? There's some fair criticisms. Thanksgiving doesn't have any really good music. There's like one or two Thanksgiving songs. That's it. And they're joke songs on top of that. So yeah, put that in the chat. Love to see who's who when they're watching tonight. But I do know that lots of parents who love Jesus get overwhelmed by all the commercialism, and they want their kids to experience a Christmas that is a little less commercial and a little bit more focused on Jesus. I find even families who maybe have parents who don't necessarily say like, oh man, I'm sold out for Jesus, but they respect Jesus. It's an important part of their heritage. They also kind of want the commercialism to die down a little bit, and they want some more true meaning of Christmas to come out. So I love the different Advent calendars and Advent devotionals out there. They're great. My only problem with any of them is not the actual tool, not the actual resource. It's me. So often I start them, and then I get 10 or 15 days into Advent if I'm lucky, and like I run out of steam and things get busy, and we were out at a special event that night, and so we didn't do it this night, and it just gets to be so much. So I really you should still go buy those things and do those things. They're great, and we will still do our best too. But I like to find simple ways to incorporate Jesus into just the ordinary Christmas stuff we're doing. So let's talk about one of those things. I'm going to give you an object lesson right now. And I'm going to teach you. Let me just switch something on my screen because I've got some scriptures I'm going to read here and I don't got to memorize. Sorry. I'm not as good of a Christian as you might think. I don't know my scriptures all memorized. Anyway, let's talk. I'm going to show you a little object lesson you can do with your kids. And I give this to you now. So that way, when it gets closer to Christmas and you want to do like a Christmas family time, you've got this in your back pocket. So if you want to start including Jesus more into your Christmas season, into your Advent time, let me show you a real simple way you can do that. I love object lessons, and today's object lesson is Christmas pajamas. If your family does Christmas pajamas, whether they all match or they're just different ones, but you all get new pajamas for Christmas, put it in the chat, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Tell me what you guys get. Do you get Christmas themed ones, or do you get just good winter jammies? We get Christmas pajamas here. Sometimes they're Christmas themed. Other times they're just winter themed of some kind. But we all get Christmas pajamas on Christmas Eve, and we all go to bed in our brand new pajamas. So when you bring out your pajamas with your kids, whenever that moment is, here's something you can do so they'll remember Jesus every time they change into these pajamas. As you're presenting them, whether that's in gift wrap or you just pass them out, whatever it is, let them sit in their laps, let them take a look at them, but then have them put them on their laps or on the side, and then talk about them. Say, why do we do getting new jammies? Why do we do that this time of year? And they're gonna say, oh, because we need new pajamas, because it's fun. Yeah, but why do you like getting pajamas? And they'll say things like, oh, they're very warm, they're comfortable. I love getting up in the morning during the Christmas week and getting to stay in my pajamas and like watch movies and drink hot chocolate. Yeah, they're comfortable, they're warm. They really help us to get rest, things like that. Yeah. Maybe even ask your kids, what's something special about pajamas? Do you have a favorite pair of pajamas you've gotten over the years if your kids are a little bit older? See what they say. But this part of your time with your kids, you're just trying to spark their interest, get the conversation going. And then say, what if I told you you could remember Jesus just by looking at your pajamas every day during Christmas? And they're going to say, what? And you're going to say, sure. Now, I'm going to give you 3 scriptures you could use. I want you to do one of 2 things. Either one, pick just one to use with your kids and make that the focus. Or if you have some older children who are really good at sustaining attention, at reading, things like that, then maybe you use all 3 and maybe even have different kids read these different scriptures. So the first one, Romans 13, 11 to 14. And I actually use some ellipses to sort of focus the conversation. So Romans 13, 11 to 14. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Clothe yourselves with the Lord Jesus Christ. What this is saying is, stop living in old sinful ways. Start living as people who genuinely belong to Jesus. Don't look on the outside like you belong to Jesus. Look on the inside like you do with the way you live your life, and it'll come out on the outside. Clothe yourselves with Jesus Christ. So you could use that scripture, and there's a great lesson in there. Or after you have that conversation about pajamas, go to instead Ephesians 4:22 to 24. You were taught to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. What are we told to do? Put off the old self. Get rid of those old pajamas. Instead, take those new pajamas. Take that new self in Jesus Christ. When you come to Jesus Christ, and this is a verse that's often read at baptisms too, when you come to Jesus and you follow him, there are old ways and an old self that you just get rid of. It's not easy. It doesn't all seem to go at one time a lot of times, but you put on the new self, the self that's filled with the Holy Spirit. And so when you get dressed in your pajamas, your brand new pajamas, I want you to remember the new person you can be when you follow Jesus Christ, and how he doesn't want to just clothe you on the outside. He wants to come from within you and come out you to share with this world what it means to follow Jesus. So there's another one you can use. The third one you can use is Colossians 3, verses 12 to 14. And again, you can use all 3 of these. You could use just one of them. This one's a great one. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. This one I particularly like because of those words, patience, gentleness, humility. It reminds me of the fruit of the Spirit. And so we talk about clothing ourselves with compassion, kindness, humility. And we ask our kids, hey, what does that mean to clothe ourselves with compassion? What is clothing ourselves with humility or clothing ourselves with gentleness and patience? How can we be more patient in our family? This one I especially like for younger kids, but I like for all kids in the family. I think it's the easiest one to make the connection with. And after you have had that little conversation at the beginning, you've read a scripture, ask a few questions like, hey, what do you think it means to put on Jesus? What are some spiritual clothes we can wear this week? Like kindness and patience. What is that going to look like? What does patience look like right now? Or, how can we remember to dress our hearts and not just our outsides each day? And talk about how we can read a different Bible verse of the day, or we can pray together, or whatever you do to dress your heart and get your heart ready for Christmas as much as you get your outside ready for Christmas too. Then I would close in a quick prayer and go get changed in your new pajamas. But that's how you can take a simple tradition like Christmas pajamas and go ahead and bring Jesus into that tradition in a way that every time they see their pajamas, every time they get changed in their pajamas, they're going to remember what you shared about clothing themselves with Jesus. You can even take one of those Bible verses and hang it up on their closet door in their bedrooms, or put it in the bathroom so when kids get out of the shower, they see it and they can read it as they get dressed in their pajamas as well. But that's the simple ways we can bring Jesus into Christmas each and every day. All right, take that with you. It's a useful one for sure. All right, let me switch over here. I've got about 15 minutes left before I've got to go. I'm working with another family this evening. If you want to work with me, go ahead and head over to JesusHelpMeParent.com, and you can click on the little red button in the upper corner of the website and book a free call with me. And we could talk. We could talk about your kids and talk about how one-on-one coaching really helps a lot of families out. And like I said before, if you want to get yourself a copy of these calm cards, head over to our TikTok shop. They are for sale right there. A great resource for lots of families to help them as we're parenting our kids. All right. I think we're going to get to one more question tonight. So I'm going to take this question and just delete it because we're not going to get to that question, and I'm going to have to put it somewhere else. Bear with me for the moment. I'm going to shrink that down, and I'm going to put it right there. All right. Last question of the night. Here we go. When one child hurts another, like hitting or saying something mean, what's the best way to handle it without just sending them to their rooms? Yeah, absolutely. How do we help our kids when they start hurting each other, when they're hitting each other, when they're saying mean words? Some of us just send them to their rooms and call it a night. We're done. But that doesn't bring heart change. Let's start with that first one, hitting. When we have children violating personal space, when they're getting into each other's bubbles, when we've got hitting and things like that, we have passed the point of children resolving conflicts on their own. You look at Matthew 18, and it encourages people to try to go to each other to resolve conflict. And if that doesn't work, then bring in others to help. And so in the parenting context, we try to get our kids to talk to each other first and bring us in when they need help. But when hitting's involved, that tells me one of these kids is not interested in hearing the other one's words. And so we get involved right away. And in that moment, the first thing we need to do is make sure everybody's safe. So we need to put some separation here. And if somebody's hitting at that point, they need to go take a break. Like, they need to calm down. Whether that is having a seat over here, taking a break, and coming back to talk to me. This is not a penalty box. We are not yelling at our kids. We are calmly saying, you're out of line. You need to go take a break over here. Or you're like, BJ, they can't do it. I send them over there. They're just going to explode even louder. you probably want to use my calm approach, which these are available in the TikTok shop, and start connecting with that kid, helping them calm down, working with them on those calming strategies that you want them doing over there independently. You're just doing it over there with them. And then coming back for that conversation to talk about what they did wrong, why it was wrong, what they're going to do differently next time, and how they're going to fix this time. That's what happens when we start hitting. But they're not just hitting because they decided they were angry and they just wanted to hit people. They're hitting for other reasons. They're often lacking other skills, and that's why they're hitting. It might be verbal skills that they're struggling with. They don't know how to express themselves the right way. They might not have the skill set to navigate those big emotions. So we need to look, after we deal with the hitting problem here, we need to look at the situation afterwards and say, what's missing? What does my child need that would help them navigate this better? That'll be part of the conversation we have with this kid, but it'll also be part of my parenting moving forward, so I can teach the skills they need. So long term, they know hands are not for hitting, hands are for helping, and that they can use their words to resolve conflicts instead. Now, that's what we do when we've got hitting involved here. We're establishing safety. We're bringing some correction over here. We're making it right, and we're looking at what we need to teach our child. When we've got kids saying something mean, let's start with the fact that deep down, that's as bad or worse than hitting. Think about the times you remember as a child. Maybe you got into fights with people, physical fights and things like that. You probably remember one or two if that was you, but you probably don't remember all the times if there's a number of them. But I guarantee you, you remember some of the most hurtful words that were spoken to you as a child. And some of them still impact you to this day. Some of them still impact all of us to this day. And so a lot of times we see hitting and we're like, oh, we got to solve that problem. And oh, bad words. Oh, we want to stop mean words. No, that's just as bad. It's really bad. And so how do we help with that situation? Well, again, a kid who's using mean words, hurtful statements, they are clearly off track. They clearly need to calm down. I'm not going to send them to their room, because going to their room, in most cases, maybe there's a case where I might, but in most cases, I'm not sending them to their room because their room's way too far away, way too unsupervised. They need help calming down. For some kids, they can just have a seat right here, calm down, and come back to see me. That conversation, which I call a positive conclusion, is important because that is the power conversation we're going to have. By power, I mean the impactful conversation that we're going to have that's going to help a kid reflect on what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what they could do differently next time. Can you hear my cat in the background right now? I can. She's right here. She's been trapped in this little office with me this whole time, hanging out in the corner. Now she's meowing over here. So if you can hear her, that's who's there. Anyway, we need to have that conversation with our kids. Some kids can just sit right over here, take a break, come back and see us. Other kids need our help. When they need our help, we're going to use what I call the CALM framework. We have lots of videos over on YouTube all about the CALM framework. In the TikTok shop, we've got these cards available to help teach you the CALM framework. So you can go ahead and check those things out. And pretty soon, not yet, we'll be having a website, JesusHelpMeParent.com/CALM tools, where we'll have a whole host of tools you can check out right there. It's not up quite yet. Although if you're watching this on a replay, go click over there. If you see a link down below, it's up and running. Go check it out. But what we need to do is we need to connect, attune, lean on God's promises, and map a plan forward. Connecting and attuning is taking a break with some parental help. That's what that kid who made those comments needs at that point. Then they need to lean into what God says is true about how we should treat our brother and sisters. And then we need to map a plan forward. What did you do wrong? Why was it wrong? What are you going to do differently next time? And what are you going to do right now to repair this with your sibling? That's how we address it in the moment. But just like we had this kid who hit, we went over here and said, okay, what else does this kid need me to teach them? That's what needs to happen over here. Let me suggest a few things that your child who is using hurtful words needs to learn. One, they need to learn about the power of words. They need to read scripture about the power of the tongue. They need to do some little lessons like a toothpaste race where they squeeze out all the toothpaste with all their siblings. They all squeeze their own rolls of toothpaste out. Go buy cheap toothpaste when you do this. Do ready, set, go, and they all squeeze toothpaste. And then when you see who got all their toothpaste out of their tube first, completely, second race, put it back in, ready, set, go. And they soon realize they can't put it back in. Then we get some of those verses from the Bible about the tongue, and we talk about the power of our words. Now we can't put them back in. You take a children's book where the main character gets their feelings hurt a bunch, like the book Chrysanthemum. Love that book for younger children. And you cut out a paper heart, and every time that Chrysanthemum's heart gets hurt from mean words, we fold that paper and we really crunch it up. And at the end, when she's feeling better, we unfold it and we notice the creases are still there. And we talk about how our words, yes, we can ask for forgiveness. Yes, we can even say nice things to the person now, but our words still have a lasting impact on that heart. And so we need to be mindful of how we use our words. Our child needs to also learn some lessons about when you're getting frustrated, when you want to scream and yell at this person, when you want to say mean things to them. Tame your tongue and come get me instead, so we can talk and help you come up with better words for what's bothering you in that situation. We need to teach I messages and calm ways to express ourselves without the anger, and teach them to come back for help when they're feeling upset. So that's how we handle these two situations. Other than just send them to their room. Send them to their rooms is like giving up as a parent, right? Where it's like, I don't know what to do. I just need to be quiet. Get out of here. There might be a situation where that actually is an effective strategy, but it often involves you bringing everybody back very quickly afterwards when things have calmed down. So that's what's going to help you and your family all throughout the year when you need to help them just navigate sibling conflicts. We've got lots of resources on sibling conflicts on our website, including a whole course you can take from sibling fights to family nights. I'll put the link down below. You can check it out. All right. Looking at the time here, I have got to get going. It's getting late. So thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I am here every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We come live. We mainly are focused on YouTube, but I learned how to go live on TikTok. So guess what? We're on TikTok and Facebook. We just love having you here too. So we're live on Facebook as well. So I'm going to say goodbye to our Facebook community right now. Good to have you here tonight. We'll see you real soon. Bye, everyone, on Facebook. And to my friends over on YouTube, I'm going to end the stream over there. Like I said, click thumbs up over there on YouTube if this has been helpful to you. Share this video with others. We're going to be putting timestamps down below too, but if you're watching at this point, you probably don't need me to tell you that. I should have said that at the beginning of this video. Hopefully next week, I'll do that one better. Thanks so much for watching on YouTube. Bye, everybody.